Job of each and every organizational member to maintain talent, that is to maintain other person in the organization. Likewise, it is someone else's job to maintain us when it comes vis-a-vis. So when I'll ask a question, whose job is it to maintain talent? So some of us might say it's an HR's job to maintain the talent. Okay, it is each and everybody's job to maintain talent. So when we say it is each and everybody's job to maintain talent, what do you mean by that? It is recognizing that each one of us contributes. And how do you do that? By building a culture. So these are individually big topics and they'll take hours maybe for us to deliberate on. But if we can just take down a few understandings of these concepts, what is that we are heading towards? When we say talent management, what is talent? So talent is whatever expertise, whatever input each individual brings to the organization. The special thing that one individual brings to the organization, along with other common things that he's supposed to bring. If you're able to tap that at the right point of time, so mapping the competencies of the individuals. So these are independent words, independent extensions of human resource, if you want to use the word again, human resources management practices. So are they in place in the organization? So they have to be in place. I mean, in the first place, it could be a very small organization, but it needs to have a system in which you recruit on the basis of what you need to recruit. Then how do you understand what kind of person you have? So you can use there are batteries of psychological testings. You can get somebody, you can hire somebody and understand people on basis of their personality types, on their psychological types, because it is the person who is coming to you for work. It is not a machine or it is not one technical expertise which is coming to you for work. There is a wonderful concept called Theory Z. Now, I don't know, because theories, again, professors, they come with theories. So it may not be a very good idea to talk about this to the entrepreneurs, but it's a very interesting concept. It says that why Japanese employers or businesses or products, whatever you call them, they always say they have an edge over other companies and other global competitors of theirs because they practice this thing. And that this thing is Theory Z practice, which says that you accept the individual completely. So you create a value for you add value to his life. Now how do you do that? By having a lot of initiatives wherein when you own the employee. Now you may just correct me with this when I say this. Tata's, for example, is one organization with some exceptions, of course, which will have employees who are married to the organization. They will not change the job once they are with that particular organization. And one of you, some of you, all of you, most of you are Tatas. For that matter, if you believe the Tatas are one of the best Indian organizations, are in the making, for that matter. And if they've become what they are today, they have also begun somewhere at some point of time. And that is, they believe in people a lot. That each one of us and each of them can and will surely contribute. Another beautiful theory, if you can just take down these two words and somewhere if you want to know about it, or you may be knowing about this thing. So theory Y kind of a thing, believing in people. So how many of us believe in people, every kind of person around us? Because we have recruited that person, we have selected that person. Otherwise it is selection error. We have chosen the wrong person. Okay, or rejection error, we have rejected a right candidate. If that has not happened, then whatever has happened is the right person for the right job. Now if he is not performing, if he is not able to contribute, somewhere we have to own that thing on us. So when you own that thing on you, you become a Theory Y kind of a practitioner, Theory Y kind of an entrepreneur, Theory Y kind of a leader in the first place. So I guess this talent management and retention, you may have slides, up on these things. But if you just put it in some corner of your organization and do it as a procedure once in a year, okay, it is not going to really make sense to any of the organizations. It's more about how much you are convinced about what you're doing. So understanding that people come in different shapes and sizes, and all of them can contribute. People come in different shapes and sizes, and all of them can contribute is the first beginning towards talent management and talent retention. And then there are various strategies. So I'll just take you through this particular slide show in case I have missed on something, or maybe we can add on to the presentation. So these are some basic questions that I would want you to look at. So who should do it? Who is the talent? What are talent management activities and practices? And creating a talent-centric organization. So when I say who should do it, so I just talked about it, saying it's not only the HR's job. It is everybody's job to maintain the talent in the organization. And then how do you do that? Something that you can use maybe just outside, the moment you step outside this conference hall. And many of you, I guess, must be practicing this in your organizations. And that is the aspect of strokes. Okay, the aspect of strokes. So there are two types of strokes here. And when I give the examples, you'll know that you have been already doing it. Maybe the terms were not known. There are performance strokes and there are being strokes. So we are all used to giving performance strokes. So when somebody is doing something extraordinarily well and has performed well, we definitely give them some good reward. Again, there is a beautiful aspect about what kind of reward we are giving people. How are we rewarding them? Because not all kinds of rewards are going to be having a similar kind of effect on all kinds of employees. So then there's a wonderful point given by Harsha Bhogle in his wonderfully written book called The Winning Way, where he draws an analogy between cricket world and the corporate world. He says, interesting thing, treat people equally and differently. That is talent management. If you ask me in one line, what is talent management? Is treating people equally and differently. So whether it is gender, whether it is levels across the organization, whatever, or functions, it is treating people equally and differently. So it is about this, so it's not the manager's job again, it's not the HR manager's job again, it's everybody's job to maintain this particular, who is this talent? Yes, we have begun with this particular thought in mind, and that talent is everyone in the organization. Of course, you can have some different varieties of talent across the organization, but everybody is a talent is what we need to acknowledge and understand. So the being stroke, I talked about the performance stroke, wherein I said that it is about performance. How many of us believe in giving being strokes? So being strokes is about these things, again, may seem very theoretical, but how many of us relate with people without any reason? How many of us talk to them without any reason? How many of us connect with them without any reason? How many of us, and how do we create this kind of a culture in the organization that we have to relate with each other without any reason? How many of us talk to each other without any reason in the organization? So what is the kind of culture that we have in the organization? That will it's a very important aspect in maintaining talent. Very sadly, we believe as entrepreneurs, as managers, that if we reward people monetarily, they're going to remain with us for longer time. This is very, very incorrect when it comes at least to the higher level of employees in the organization. Lower level of employees you can still maintain to some extent. Again, I'm making a very loud statement, I'm sure, and I'm aware of. But in the upper management cadre, it is so it's very commonly said that people leave their bosses, not their jobs. And at times people don't leave their bosses, but they leave their jobs. So that is the relationship part. That is so working on relationships. So how do you do that? Maybe for that matter. So maybe you becoming more aware of the being strokes. You become more aware about the learning processes in the organization. How do you develop the organizational employees? Are you investing in some kind of development program? Do people have individual development plans in your organization? When you talk about, because end of the day it is, every employee comes to the organization and feels every day that what am I going to get end of the day? Is it only the money that is what I'm looking forward to? Okay, or is it some value addition to my resume, to my life, and so on and so forth? So if you are able to give him that value addition, so yesterday I was reading an interview written by Mr. Vijay Fanshikar. Some people from Nagpur knows this person very well. He was interviewing Anand Deshpande, persistent, the guy who owns this organization. And Anand Deshpande says, I keep working on my resume. Now imagine a person who owns Persistent Systems Limited, he keeps on working on his resume every year. He says, I want to find out how much I've added to my resume every year. So somebody as so big as him talks about building his resume. Every employee wants to add something to his resume every year. So are we contributing to some kind of learning of this individual? If you have invested in that, employee will think 10,000 times before leaving you. If you have shown that concern that I believe in your learning, I want and I believe that you can learn in the first place, and I want you to learn in the second place, and I will help you learn the learning process in the third place, I think the employee will take 10,000 years to leave you. Even if he has best of the opportunities and best of the competitor wants to hire him. So there is like acknowledging the will to excel. So that everybody wants to excel. You know, this is all psychological. This is all attitude. This is very different than business, but business is all with attitudes. It's said that performance drives results. Okay, performance drives results. What drives performance is relationships. I guess you'll these days the entire world is getting ruled by Facebook. I guess all of us are on Facebook. We meet, at least half of people here I'm attached with Utkarsh, or maybe it's Himanshu, or anybody for that matter. We are connected on Facebook. Okay? And how much happiness we derive when we get a like? Okay? Don't we get that happiness? And those who are not there on Facebook, they are either on Twitter, you are either on something else. So the connectedness part of it is missing very largely in the organizations. If you can establish that connect this way or that way, and again, talent management, there is no thumb rule for this. In the sense, we cannot say this is the best talent management practice for any organization. It's not the case. So for every organization, you have to understand what is your best talent management practice that you can adapt to, which is affordable. And simple practices like gestures and relationships and connect, I think they cost nothing, but they can go a big way. Every type contributes is something very technical word that I've used there. Is one MBTI tool that I personally specialize in. I'm a certified MBTI trainer, so I use that word there, which classifies everybody, all of us, in either of the 16 personality types. And then there is information, a lot of information on your websites also. You can search this particular MBTI tool. It says that all of us either belong to one of those 16 types. And there's some theorist who has given this theory of personality types and so on and so forth. No theory class here. But understanding that every type, so if there is one combination, for example, I just give an example. For example, ISTJ, okay? So it is introverted, person who is not very extroverted, who doesn't really derive energy from meeting people, who derives energy, who gets a drive from within, okay, is an introverted person. ISTJ, I said. S is sensing, a person who can get enchanted or who will get going by the sight of data, sensing, lot of senses. He'll use all his senses to gather data. ISTJ, so T is thinking, somebody who will use all his thinking versus feeling. Okay, he will not get going by feeling what about a particular situation, he will get going by a thinking process. And finally, J is judging, person who is more organized as compared to perceiving people. People who are not very, very organized at the face value of it, but who would keep things pending till the end. Now, this is an example that I wanted to bring to the seminar, wherein understanding such kind of dynamics, that you are different, I am different, like these 5 fingers are different, and all of them, you come together in a wrist and a hand, and then finally they all perform some one activity. We cannot, but then all of them come in different shapes and sizes, different size at least. Okay, so understanding that basic thing and putting it into your processes, whatever process, whatever software you use, whatever hardware you use. Okay, end of the day, this is live wire. This is individual which is going to get that thing across to the customer, whichever, internal and external both. So giving appropriate reward, I feel, is an important thing. Not giving reward, the reward you feel is a great reward, but reward which the individual also desires. So किसी को आपने बहुत अच्छा काम किया किसी employee ने, उसको पता चला कि last year इतना अच्छा काम करने के बाद जो reward मिला था वो था transfer to US base. And this year you have, I have no reasons to look down upon any other country, but for example, say some other country, other than US, and he is completely demotivated. He says, oh my God, I am not going to US for that matter. So for him that award was going to, so understanding what is the appropriateness of the reward or award that you are trying to decipher to the organizational employees. So otherwise it is bogus. Whatever talent management acquisition or talent management retention policies we talk about, this all is bullshit. It's all bogus if you don't really believe in creating that appropriateness in the process. And where do you put employees, assets or liabilities? I guess that was one important thing I wanted to ask you. Now this is a research done by American Society for Training and Development. I generally don't quote outside India researchers because they don't make much of sense to in Indian context. But I guess some presentations, presentations should also have some statistics. So that is the reason I got this. But interestingly, you can just look at it. People, this is a question was asked that how many of them believed that, okay, and most of them, they believe that it is at the senior management level. So this change of perspective is the first thing in talent management processes, according to this research and according to what I am trying to put across. So talent management activities, we have number of books and number of sites, websites and consultancies giving a lot of inputs on all these things, but I've gone a little ahead of that, I guess, and respecting people across all levels, providing them with all the facilities you can afford, creating cultures where there's less of indulgence and more of involvement. I'll conclude with an interesting concept called appreciative inquiry before I end up with this presentation, so just remind me in case I forget that. Empowering people in theory Z approach I've talked about, understanding mapping the skills and creating person environment fit. So there are many consultancies helping you with competency mapping. So understanding what competencies at what level employees have, and accordingly allowing them to get into learning processes and then utilizing them in the right manner. Managing enterprise social networking. This is the recent addition to talent management. How do you socially network as an organization? So I've already talked about the corporate alumni forums, which is a very upcoming thing, and it's a buzz thing these days. What are the talent management activities? So the more known ones, the more popular ones is recruitment, executive education program. I don't know whether it will sound like advertising IMT here, but then we do a lot of executive training programs for corporates across the country. And in that way, when people come to us for management development programs, they stay with us for 10 days. And you know what they talk about? They talk about bonding. They talk about friendship. In the feedback session, we have an open house feedback session. Professor Fadnavis is one of the popular teachers in those management development programs. And when we ask people on the last day, what have you liked the most in this, they talk about us, of course, but they talk about, more importantly, about how they have loved being with their fellow beings and the colleagues across, like NTPC for that matter is a very loyal brand of ours. How they have enjoyed being with each other on campus, so on and so forth. So bonding, networking, connections, no age, no technology can ever replace it. So how much do you invest in your own capacity on all these aspects will take you a long way in the organizational development process. How do you manage the performance? How do you feed forward? Not feedback. Feedback is gone long way back. It's being used it's no more used as a word. It's more of how do you feed them with the input that you have about the feedback, rather, the word that we generally understand with performance for that matter. How do you make them understand that it is not that we don't want you or we criticize you, we are criticizing you or we have some complaints against you. It's about we want you to do better and we believe in you that you can do better. So that is about how do you get into those things. Employee opinion survey once in a while definitely helps, and telling them what is the opinion that you have gathered. And so when you hire consultants, please be cautious. Do not hire consultants who do not have proper understanding of what you mean by organizational development. There are many people who would sell themselves without any theoretical base, and they are very harmful. So half knowledge anyways is dangerous. Succession planning and so on and so forth. So creating a talent-centric organization, how do you do that? One tool I can bring to the class here in 1 minute is appreciative inquiry. So it can start with very simple things like how do you inquire? So from next moment, whenever you're going to talk to one of your employees, when you go back to your organizations, you'll have a lot of questions. First question could be, how have they spent the day? Say till 1:30, when you were not there in the office. Okay, what have they done? And there's an inquiry, there's a question. Now how do you put that forth? Is it in a very offensive way or in appreciative tone? So there's a wonderful concept called appreciative inquiry, and which says that you inquire with a lot of appreciation in place. Now what it means, you can again log on to internet to find out some more inputs on that. I will not teach anything in this class, but this is one interesting thing that will help you a lot when you talk to people and build your own people-friendly organization. So no illusive support. If you are trying to really build a talent-centric organization, don't really fake your support. You're top managers, you're the top management in the organization. Without your commitment, without your support, nothing can happen. So it is not that you've allotted a particular corpus for that particular activity. It is your personal commitment of how it is happening that is going to matter a lot in the longer run. So don't just delegate. Also get involved in the whole process as much as you can. It will make a lot of difference. No lip service at this particular point of time. It definitely is not same for every company. It varies from place to place except for a few practices. And talent management strategy should include something for all audiences. So treating people equally and differently is what I think we should be pondering over. And feed forward, not feed back. And understanding that the talent is not just at the top, it is everywhere. So when you're downsizing, when you're throwing people outside the organization for whatever reason, or if you're supposed to, remember that whom are you throwing out? Or maybe who is the person who is leaving you? Okay? So not somebody who has actually helped you a lot in building the organization and who's a real talent, okay, you're preparing his severance package, okay, very, very mistakenly. End of the day, I'll just conclude with a small शायरी. में नहीं है, पा जाने की अरमानों में है. तो this मोहब्बत पाने के अरमानों में जो है वो organizational culture है. So how can you create that culture? How can you instigate? How can you influence at your end? And how does it actually have an impact in the culture will determine where you will take the organization 10 years down the line. Thank you very much, SMB Connect, for inviting me.